greatest hits. I don't buy a lot of greatest hits. Or at least I thought that was the case until I sat down to make this video. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. Greatest hits. It's a thread. This is going around the vinyl community. I think it was started by my pal Darryl, the Northern Vinyl guy, who co-hosts with me on my Wednesday night live stream. He wants us to show greatest hits. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to dedicate it to my very good pal, Chris Mann, the Vinyl Man over in Wales, who is the king of greatest hits.
Greatest hits. The greatest hits. Greatest hits. Greatest hits. The greatest hits. Greatest hits. The greatest hits. Greatest hits. Greatest hits.
So this is for you, Chris. This is U2, the best of 1980 to 1990, which came out in 1998. And this is U2, the best of 1990 to 2000, which came out at the same time. This is an OG first pressing. This, unfortunately, is not. This is the only U2 record I don't have an OG first pressing of. So obviously these U2 put out to commemorate their first 20 years of hits, and there's a lot of them. They're both fantastic. I love them. The CD versions came out with a bonus disc of extra material, B-sides or whatever, and I have those sitting over there. But I have them on vinyl. I really want to get an OG of 1980 to 1990, but they're quite expensive. But these are 2 records each, the gatefold. Let's show the gatefold as our Wednesday rule. So yeah, I mean, if you're getting into U2, I think it's a fantastic place to start. I wish they would have continued on and done a 2000 to 2010 and 2010 to 2020, but they didn't. So that's what we got, and they're great. Okay, so this next one I think is very interesting. This is Fleetwood Mac's greatest hits. This is a riot because this is Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. This is the Fleetwood Mac before Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks when they were a British blues band. So John and Mick and Christine, Peter Green, Danny Kirwan, great British blues. But it's funny that, this is their greatest hits when a couple years later, when they would have some lineup changes and ultimately would record arguably one of the greatest classic rock albums ever. I know it's overplayed and people don't want to hear it, but Rumors. So if these were hits, what they would produce down the road would eclipse this by light years. I'm not saying musical quality, I'm just saying in terms of hits. But anyway, it's just funny that unless you're of a certain age or you're a hardcore Fleetwood Mac fan, you probably don't know any of these. Younger listeners don't even know that there was a whole lineup of the band and made a whole different kind of music before this. So there's something sort of humorous that there was a greatest hits album by Fleetwood Mac that had essentially no hits relative to what they would produce later on. I hope I'm being articulate about that. Still great hits, obviously, and wonderful songs. I love them, but a little bit funny in the same right. So this came out in 1970. Black Magic Woman is sort of their biggest of the day. So next up, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts greatest hits came out in 2010. 2 LP, 21 songs, and it has everything. Even from the early Runaways, she re-recorded Cherry Bomb. There's other stuff on here like Bad Reputation, I Love Rock and Roll, Crimson and Clover, Hate Myself for Loving You, all those hits. This was actually my gateway into Joan Jett. I don't know what inspired me to pick this up 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was. But it's just good, honest rock and roll. Nothing fancy about it by any means. And from this, I have pretty much all of Joan Jett's output, and it's all fantastic. But that's kind of where it started. It's an interesting one because I don't think there's really any hits on here per se. Under the Covers, the best of Matthew Sweet and Susanna Hoffs. Susanna Hoffs, my fantasy wife. Susanna Hoffs from the Bengals, Matthew Sweet. They recorded 3 albums together called Under the Covers, Volume 1, 2, and 3. And it's them just doing covers. And this is a 2 LP best of those 3 albums. So are there any hits in terms of were any of these commercially successful? No, but in their opinion, they're the best of what they recorded. And I mean, you know all these songs because they're famous covers. And Your Bird Can Sing by the Beatles, You're So Vain, Carly Simon, Different Drum. What else is on here? Cinnamon Girl, Bell Bottom Blues, Give Me Some Truth, Free Fallin'. You know every one of these songs. So the best of culled from a series of albums that Susanna Hoffs and Matthew Sweet did. It's actually really enjoyable. I love it. Aside from the fact that I'm a giant Susanna Hoffs fan. Okay, this album played a very significant part of the soundtrack of sort of my high school years. I was a nut for the Hollies back in the day, back in the 90s. This is their greatest hits from 73. The song Bus Stop got me hooked because it's about a guy that sees a girl at a bus stop and offers his umbrella and they end up together, you know, whatever. At that time, I was feeling the pangs of young love, shall we say. They were unrequited, however. She didn't give me the time of day, but I remember listening to that song a lot back in those days. And I love everything on here. Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress is just such an amazing song. That guitar riff is great. He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, On a Carousel. I love all these songs. I probably played this 1,000 times back in the day. Haven't listened to it in a number of years, and I probably should put it on because I absolutely love this record. Okay, the best of the Guess Who. There is actually a volume 2, which I don't have. This is of the era when Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman were the principals in this band. The second one was after Randy Bachman left. But this has their biggest hits on here. These Eyes, Laughing, Undone, No Time, American Woman, No Sugar Tonight, all those amazing songs. I also had this on CD and played the shit out of it back in high school at the same time that I was listening to the Hollies. So pretty important album for me as well. Okay, the greatest hits of the Goo Goo Dolls. Volume 1, the singles. There's a volume 2, which I think is live stuff. Really like the Goo Goo Dolls. Great band from the 90s. Still going strong today. I bought this because, I have Dizzy Up the Girl, which has some of these on it. But some of these songs, I don't even know if they were ever put out on vinyl. So it's got the big ones on here. It's got Slide, Name, Broadway, Black Balloon, Iris was their monster hit. So a couple of those were on Dizzy Up the Girl, which I have, but some of the other ones were not. So when this came out, I'm like, I'm going to buy this because I like all their singles. So the Goo Goo Dolls, greatest hits. Okay, these next two are my dad's. This is the Best of the Beach Boys and the Best of the Beach Boys Volume 2. There we go. My dad's name's even written on these. So when I was first starting to listen to music as a young teenager, 12, 13, whatever. Really, even before I even got into the Beatles, I started listening to these because I knew some of the songs, right? Like I knew Surfin' USA and I knew like, Fun, Fun, Fun. So, I played these a lot. These are my dad's original OGs from 63, 4, whenever they came out. Very in impeccable shape, too, by the way. So, listen to these a lot. Love them because they're my dad's. I actually have this one here over on my wall, autographed by Mike Love and Al Jardine. No, I didn't meet them. I bought it, but it is authenticated. So, Beach Boys. This is their hits from, we'll call it, up to the late 60s. For those of you that watch my Wednesday night live stream, you know that my partner Joe is a massive fan of Bryan Adams. There's the man right there. Brian's put out a lot of greatest hits. This is the first one, which came out in 1993, called So Far So Good, which was all of his hits up to 1993. Starting, of course, with Joe's favorite, Summer of 69. This is actually relatively hard to find. Then in, I think, around 2002, he put out The Best of Me, which is another greatest hits compilation. I have it on CD, but it's never been released on vinyl. Then he put out the Bryan Adams Anthology, which came out in the early 2010s. Have that on CD. It's not available on vinyl. And then he put out his most recent greatest hits in 2017, and that's Bryan Adams' Ultimate. And it does have all the hits and a couple new songs as well. So there actually are some on here that you're not going to find anywhere else on vinyl, which is kind of cool. All for Love, When You're Gone, Cloud Number 9. Man's got 4 greatest hits albums, which is more albums than some people have in total. So there you go, Brian. Up next is the King, Elvis. This is 30 number 1 hits. I think this is probably the best way to do a greatest hits of Elvis Presley. I mean, the man recorded like 600 songs. So these are all of his songs that went to number 1. When this came out, this had the JLX radio edit of A Little Less Conversation, which went to number 1, giving Elvis his 30th number 1 hit. Essential, I think, Elvis listing, in my opinion. Okay, this is greatest hits that most people don't even know exist. This is one that I treasure. I've shown before Rodriguez, Searching for Sugar Man, if you've seen that documentary. The American folk singer that was unheard of in the States and unbeknownst to him was a massive success in Africa and Australia for 20 years before he found out about his success. Watch the movie Searching for Sugar Man. It's incredible. Cold Fact was his first album. His second album was called Coming From Reality. I have an original South African first pressing of Cold Fact, which I treasure. This is something unique that I found out about from a viewer, and I was able to snag one off the eBay. This is Rodriguez at his best. So it's the Cold Fact cover with the Coming From Reality picture. And what this is, 5 songs from his first album, Cold Fact, 3 from his second album, Coming From Reality, and 3 that have never previously appeared on a record. So it's a greatest hits for an artist that only had 2 albums and was largely unknown until many, many years later. But this is a Blue Goose Australian pressing from the mid-70s. So very treasure this because it's a pretty scarce item. So if you don't know Rodriguez, Sixto Rodriguez, check him out. Take that, concert buddy. All right, another guy from the 50s that I think was incredible. I'm a massive Del Shannon fan. This is called Greatest Hits and Finest Performances. This is a compilation reissue that came out in 2017. I have Del's original Little Town Flirt album, first pressing from the 50s. That's pretty cool. But I like this because I like the hits. And, back in the, 50s and early 60s, it was more about making singles and making albums. So he had a lot of singles, a lot of hits. So Runaway, Hats Off to Larry, Little Town Flirt, Keep Searching. There's even a cover of the Beatles' From Me to You on here. It's cool. Big Del Shannon fan. Unfortunately, his life ended tragically, but glad that I found this. I've talked a lot before on this channel about the influence of my dad. My dad was a music fanatic, and growing up, our living room looked a lot like this. There was a lot of these, and so music was kind of an omnipresent thing in my childhood, and my dad loved sort of the Motown girl groups. He loved the Supremes. So this is my childhood in a record. So this is Diana Ross and Supremes Greatest Hits. It's 2 LP with everything that you would expect on here. Where Did Our Love Go? Baby Love, Stop in the Name of Love, Back in My Arms Again, I Hear Symphony, You Can't Hurry Love. All of the Supremes hits, and it's great. So I only need the Supremes Greatest Hits. I don't need the rest of the studio albums, but I need this because I enjoy these hits, and they really makes me think of my dad. So I enjoy listening to this a lot. And as my dad was listening to the Supremes, for some reason I really liked the Crystals. He's a Rebel was their big hit. They also did Da-Do Run Run was their other big hit. He's Sure the Boy I Love, Then He Kissed Me, another Phil Spector produced group. So Dad liked the Supremes, I like the Crystals. This is the Crystals sing their greatest hits. I mentioned the Guess Who a little while ago, so it's fitting that I have the best of Bachman Turner Overdrive. Randy Bachman left the Guess Who, formed this band. Roll On Down the Highway, Hey You, Looking Out for Number One, Let It Ride, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, Taking Care of Business. Love those songs. I don't need the studio albums because I like BTO, but I only like the hits. I don't need the rest of it. So this will do just fine. And we'll close this out with something from the 90s. This is the Cranberries. This is called Dreams, the Collection. It's essentially their greatest hits. Inescapable part of the 90s when I was a teenager, right? I mean, you heard Cranberry songs all over the place on here. Linger, Dreams, Zombie. We all know those songs. So again, I don't need, like BTO, I don't need the Cranberry studio albums. I just like the hits. So this came out a couple years ago, 2020. So I think there's another Cranberries greatest hits as well, but this is all I need. There you go, Darryl. And more importantly, there you go, Mr. Mann. That's what I got for greatest hits. Surprisingly more than I figured. Who knew? Anyway, please check out Darryl, the Northern Vinyl Guy. I'll link his video about greatest hits, and join us on Wednesday night when Darryl and myself and Joe from On a Vinyl get together and chat about records every Wednesday night. And check out this video's honorary dedicatee, I guess, Chris Mann over at the Vinyl Man. I sometimes join him on his Sunday afternoon live streams as well. So that's it, everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Drop me a note in the comments what some of your favorite greatest hits are, or if you think greatest hits are not something you're interested in. I'm curious to hear about that as well. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you on the flip side.